welcome home. You're welcome to the central region of Ghana. You are at a place called Assin Manso, which was once upon a time a slave market. Now, my name is Kofi Ameni. Kofi because I'm a male born on Friday. And in Ghana and everywhere in the world, Fridays are always the best. And I'm going to be your guide. But before we even start with the tour, we'll be observing a minute of silence for all our brothers and sisters who lost their lives during the trade, on the Middle Passage, through segregation, through discrimination, and even through police brutality. After which I would say, may their souls rest in peace. And all of us here will be responding by saying, Ashe. Ashe simply means, may it come to pass. So if you don't mind, a minute of silence will do. Thank you. May the souls of our ancestors rest in perfect peace. Ashe. You see, when I was a young child, I always regret so many things that I am facing the consequence today. I come from a family of storytellers. My granny was a great storyteller. And every evening, she would sit us under the big tree and tells us stories of the past. I was very stubborn as a kid, so I don't even want to go to those classes. And sometimes my mom had to whip me in line just so I could listen. But how can a crying baby be listening to a wisdom from a granny? I never listened to any of them. But when I grew up today, I'm always trying to recollect all those stories my granny told me. I never knew my granny was preparing me for this day. But there was one story that I always remember, and I want to share this story with you. Look, once upon a time, in a community called Akabula, the people lived in unison, they lived in peace, and they lived in love. We have mothers from those communities that never gave birth, but they were seeing the mother of all the communities. You don't need to starve. Just walk to your nearest neighbor. There is so much food for you to eat. They love themselves, they love their king, and their king equally loves them. So one day, the king summoned all of them to come to the palace because the king wanted to organize a feast. So the king wanted to see what the community can contribute. So everyone came to meet the king. And the king told them that I wanted to organize the best feast of this community. But you know I don't have the resources to do so, I don't have the money. So what can we do to make this feast the best? The family suggested that we will bring everything that we have to support this. The farmers said, we are farmers. We can make sure the food that will be served at the feast, we will provide all. The aunties also said, we are also the aunties. We can give you all the meat. So everybody told them what they wanted to be given. So the king thanked them. And the king said, I'll be waiting for you in the next 3 days to bring whatever you promise. So when they went home, they told their kids that the next morning, go in there and bring whatever we promised the king. So they sent their children on an errand to bring home whatever they told the king. So the kids went on searching for whatever to bring in. So they searched, and the king was waiting. The first day, none of the children came back. So the king said to his elders, This feast is going to be a big feast. Because even the children wanted to even stay along in the forest just to bring more. The second day, none of the children came back. Now the king was like, what is happening? It is not real. So the king sent his warriors to go into the forest and search for their people. So the warriors also went into the forest in search of the children. But the warriors came back with clothes and dresses of those that were taken, those children. And the warriors concluded they were all dead. But the king never gave up. He summoned all the seers, so that the seers will look into the crystal balls and tell them what they are seeing. So all the seers came and they looked in their crystal balls. And what the seers told the king is that none of our children are dead. They are all alive. But the king was like, if they are all alive, where are they? And they told the king, we don't know where they are. So the king got disappointed. Why would you tell me they are alive? And yet, you can't tell me where they are. So the king organized a funeral to mourn all. So after they mourned the people, the community stayed in pain and sorrow for 20 years. There was no happiness in the community. It was everyday pain and sorrow. So one day the king summoned his elders and told them that the next community, he has heard that there is a medicine for happiness. So why don't they go to that place and bring happiness to the community? Whatever it takes, they will pay to bring happiness back. So the elders went in search of happiness. But when they got to the next community, they saw people in there that looked exactly like those that were stolen. When they saw them, they were like, we know you. But the others said, we don't know you. They tried to shake their hands, but they said, no, I don't know you. Why do you shake my hands? And they even tried to be more familiar by even mentioning their names. But they told them that is not their names. The elders felt intuitively, I know this lady. So out of pace, they went back. And they told the king, we saw them. They look exactly like us. But when we confronted them, they told us it's not them. And the king said, what are you talking about? He said, we met the people that were stolen. And the king said, no, don't worry. If it is them that you saw, at the right time, they will come back home. And today is that day. And you have made it back home safely. So welcome home again, my sisters. Now we are at Assin Manso Slave Market. Assin Manso was one of the slave markets that existed during the trade. Now this market was not the largest market, but Assin Manso as a slave market became the busiest of the market. It was the busiest because this was the only slave market that was closer to the three dangers: Fort Amsterdam, Cape Coast, and Elmina. Now, according to a Ghanaian historian, in the person of Professor Akosua Doma Pebi, in a book entitled The History of the Indigenous Slavery in Ghana, from the 15th century to 19th century, she made mention Ghana to have had 60 slave markets. 59 from this market were all managed by the Caucasians. But with all these markets, she made mention of 2 markets to have played the most important role. She spoke about the largest market in West Africa, and she spoke about the busiest market in West Africa. Now, both the largest market and the busiest market could all be found in Ghana. Even though Ghana was not a slave coast, Ghana was the good coast. Nigeria was a slave coast. But because Ghana had all the infrastructures in terms of forts, castles, and markets, Ghana was used as the exit point. So captives that were captured, that came to Ghana, were not only captured from Ghana, but they were captured from the upper borders of the country. Some from Burkina Faso, some from Mali, some from Niger. And wherever they were captured, they were supposed to walk in chains and shackles, with no food, with no water, barefoot and half naked. They're supposed to walk from the north, called Salaga, that was the largest market, to Assin Manso. I am sure you were coming from the north. So the distance from the north to Assin Manso, if you are to walk by foot, how many months do you think you will get here? Those that were captured from Mali, they have to work for over 6 months just to come to this land. 6 months in pains and sorrows. 6 months in a pain that can never be controlled. Look, I always look at this journey and I say, if you are a female and you are part of them, we are looking at 7 menstrual cycles to get here. The first month, the blood comes on you. The flies lick all on you. The second year, imagine if you have menstrual cramps. How do you continue with this journey? Many, many died. It was estimated that 60 million were captured. It was only 12.5 that was accounted for. So 47.5 million were all killed and buried. But what can they do? They keep walking. They keep dying. They cross rivers. They cross the most dangerous forests in the country. They still need to keep going. They have to survive so that their children will tell their story. They walk, they die every day until they landed here at this market. When they landed here at this market, the market goes all the way to the community, but development has catch up. But the reason why this area has been confined is that this space was identified to have been the slave cemetery within the slave market. So from the edge of the grass, walking you down the river, we are all standing on the remains of the ancestors. It was estimated that 1.7 million passed through this market. It was only 45% that survived. So we have a little over 600,000 surviving and a little over 900,000 dying. And all those that died on this land are those we are standing on today. That was when you were coming through the main gate. You realize the gate looked very short. So almost all of you entered like this. Yes, unconsciously, you've already paid your respect to this land. When they landed here at this market, this was where they were properly fed. Not out of compassion, but just for them to have a little energy to stand on. Broken bottles and sharp objects were used to get rid of their gray hair, shave their beard, just so they can look good. A device called a speculum oris was put into their mouth, open their mouth, count their teeth, and forecasting their ages. After we were made to walk down this path to the river in order for them to take their last bath. At the riverside, they were sold. At the riverside, they were branded. But those of the ancestors that could not continue with the journey, they decided to wait for you. And they have waited for you on this land for 600 years now. So today, as we've been able to stand on them today, what do we have to tell them? May their souls rest in peace. From this market, they were taken to the dungeons. But the history of the dungeons will be told later when we come back from the river, because the dungeons have a connection with the 3 tombs you see over there. But now, we are going to make a very spiritual walk to the rivers of our ancestors. And there's so many secrets I will share with you. So if you don't mind, let's make a short walk down the river. Mommy, you see, we're going to walk down the river, okay? You see the path you're about to walk on? It was the exact path that was developed by the feet of the ancestors. Thousands of them walked through this path. It was only hundreds that returned. The rest were all killed and buried. Many of us today don't even understand the pains of the ancestors, because their pains have been written to us by the same people that put that crime on us. They have been knocking on your door for so many years. They wanted to come back to them, for them to see you again. But many things discourage you from coming. But they keep still knocking. And today you are back here today. We are here to walk on the exact path that they took. How would you treat a path like this? I am sure with respect and reverence. That is why for me, Kofi, I always and would any day walk on this path with my shoes off. Then somebody asked me, why would I do that? I told them, if I don't respect the energies of my own ancestors, I don't expect an European to make it better. The second reason is why they brought you here. In order for you to be grounded, there are so many things they would have wished to bless us with. They have never had a chance with us. Today we are here to walk with them. The third is for us to say thank you to them. Because without them, we will not be here. They are waiting. Immediately they heard your footsteps on this land. They have gathered everywhere, waiting to welcome their children. It is not binding on you to take it off. But for me, I say, it will be so much not good. For you to have come from the state to your land, and your feet can never touch the land of your ancestors. These are dreams of millions, but they will never get that opportunity. So if we have had that opportunity, we have to make the land know that their children have walked on them once again. We can allow them to be killed and buried with their strength and their resilience. No. We are their children. We walk on them one more time. If you want to take off your shoes and walk on the sacred path, just leave it right here. And 5 minutes, we should be at the river.
It has more. The other side.
So, I go. Yes. Let's come this way. So, we are at the Slave River. We are at the river that the enslaved Africans took their last bath. Before they could get in here, they have already walked for over 7 months. When they brought them here, they were very dirty. Not only dirty, but they were very, very tired. They had no strength in them when they got here. Mothers, children were chained around trees. And the mother could look at the son from a distance, but there's no way she could communicate. Because when they found out that she's communicating, they used the metallic marks on her so that she couldn't even open her mouth to speak. If you had visited this river during the raining season, everywhere here will be flooded. But because we are in the dry season, that is why the water level has dropped. So when they brought them in here, in the badges of 10, in chains and shackles, they walked them down this river. Some of them saw the river as an opportunity to escape, but none of them escaped from this river. After baiting them in here, they were brought over here, and this was where they were sold. And this same grounds was where they were branded. But I always say that the most painful part of the journey for the ancestors was what happened to them right here. Because this was where the first auction took place. This was where mothers saw their daughters be taken away. And the mother never saw the daughter again. Fathers saw their wives being taken by another man. And the father never saw the wife again. The pains at the riverside would always be remembered by the ancestors. That is why when you listen to most Negro spirituals, they always sing about rivers and waters. Because the pain of the river, they have never been able to overcome it. After selling them, they were branded on this land. Depending on who bought you, they will use a metallic nail, put it in fire, and they'll use it to write on your skin. Or they'll use something like an emblem to stamp on your skin before you be taken down the dungeons. But I always say that when you go to the dungeons, you're going to meet this door at the dungeons called the door of no return. The door of no return and the last bath. What is it the same or is different? It's the same thing. Why the door of no return and why last bath? All that the Caucasian wanted you to know. That they will make sure that wherever the crime was perpetrated, you can never come back to see it. So they believed that you will never make it back to see the rivers of your ancestors. But are you not back? We are back. Which means they can never kill our spirit. They could never tame us. No. Because we are the chosen people. We would always come back to our ancestors. But when we're coming back, we will come back as different, as stronger, and as powerful. So we're never going to come to visit them as our last bath. Because this last bath is the sacrifices they made for us. So if today we are about to visit them at the river, then we are visiting them as our first bath of return. And that's why we walk with strength and power through this first bath. Get down the river and let the river bless your feet before we leave. So please come with me.